All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this morning on day 2. I'm really excited to have Sarah here this morning. Before we get started, I do want to acknowledge that I am currently living, working, playing, learning on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Coast Salish people, and I'm incredibly grateful to be on this land. And I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. So take it away, Sarah. I'm going to disappear now.
Thanks, Amy. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a fabulous Sunday wherever you are in the world. I was just supporting my husband on a marathon mountain bike course. So this is an awesome pause for me to hop in here and talk to you amazing people. So my session today is called Elevate and Embody Your Confident Woman. So you will see me reading off of paper. I am old school. There isn't going to be any slides or anything. What I would ask of you right now is if you've got like a pen and a piece of paper, like a journal, just go and grab it. Or if you have something or on your phone, just to take notes, because I'm going to be popping in some journal prompts for you to put things in motion for yourself throughout this session. So I have a land acknowledgement too to make on my end here in Kenmore, Alberta. We are located within Treaty 7 territory. It's a traditional territories and home of the Stoney Nakoda, Blackfoot, and Tutanita nations, as well as Zone 3 Métis. We acknowledge and appreciate that we live and work and play in their territory and commit to the work of reconciliation. So thank you. So I'm going to open this up with what I like to call, well, first of all, I'm Sarah Freeman. I'll start off with that, and then I will go into a bit of an introduction. But I wanted to start off with a little bit of a story. And throughout this talk, I'm going to land some stories in here for you to connect with, to be inspired with, impacted with, or whatever it is. You can take it away. Hopefully there'll be some gold nuggets in here for you to take away. So how many years ago? I can't even remember right now. So I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and it was probably like over 15 years now. And I've always been a swimmer. I'm not an Olympian. I'm not like a world champion. I'm a swimmer. I'm a strong swimmer. I'm an everyday athlete. And I wanted to do something in my life. And I had so many women around me in my community in like the Bow Valley here that inspired me. And I was like, well, I can do this too. So I was like, one of my friends, she was a triathlete. So I'm like, I can do this. I can run, maybe not that well at that point, but I can learn how to do this, and I'm a swimmer. So I signed up for my first triathlon, and it was a try. I think it was in Calgary, and it was a pool swim. So that was totally my realm. And so I did it, and I was hooked. I was totally hooked on this. So I was like, okay, let's keep going with this. But I have ulcerative colitis, and I was in the motions of trying to figure out actually what I did have. And it was really holding me back from a lot of things in my life. So I started going through triathlons, and I started pushing myself through that and taking care of my body and resting, but always been determined to find a way to put myself in remission. I remember the day I went to the Victoria Half Marathon, and I remember showing up at that race, and I remember being so sick that my husband at the time raced for me because I couldn't. I was too sick. And after that day, I was like, I need a change. And if you know me, if anybody's listening that knows me, I am a determined woman, and I like to put things into motion and action. So after that race, I went to talk to so many doctors and everything. And finally, I found a doctor that found a medication for me that put me in remission. Knock on wood, to this day today. So I thought, you know what? I can do a half marathon. I can swim. I'm going to sign up for an Ironman. So I did. I had my eyes set on Penticton. That was like the race of the time then. And then I remember going to it and I couldn't do it because it actually stopped that year. So onwards, I went to Whistler and my ulcerative colitis went into remission. And I was able to train and push my body and to learn more about my body. I was very in tune with that and to build that confidence, to embody my confidence. There was highs and there was lows, and there was points where I elevated and points where it came back down, but I just kept moving forward. And I had the support team of my friends and my family. So I completed, I think it was in 2013, my first Ironman in Whistler. And then after that, it was such a memorable experience. I remember being so proud of myself to accomplishing that and being in remission, that I signed up for another one the next year. So if there's any triathletes out there, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's a little bit addictive. So through that journey, I learned so much about myself, the highs, the lows, the confidence, elevating that confident woman in myself. So that is just one nugget of a story about me. So just to do a little introduction on myself, I am a confidence coach. So I coach women, and specifically women that are endurance athletes and stepmoms. So that's kind of my area of expertise. I am a stepmom myself. I'm a swim coach and run a squad here in Canmore. I'm a passionate endurance swimmer as well. I'm training for SCAHA right now. And what else can I say about I'm a wife? I run 2 podcasts. It's called Raw Podcast, and it stands for Rad Active Women. So I run 2 of those. We're just on a pause right now. It's always good to pause things in your life. And I also, because I needed something else, connecting with a community, I am the executive director for the Bow Valley Chamber of Commerce in the Bow Valley here, and that's fairly new. So I get to connect with so many amazing people in the Bow Valley. So I'm going to hop here into another story, and then I'm going to hand it over to you guys, okay? And I might just throw on some music here because that's my jam. I love music. And at the end, I know Amy is going to throw in, if you have any questions, like to throw out there, and you can connect with me. I'll leave lots of other stuff for you. So elevating and embodying your confidence as an endurance swimmer. I'm an endurance swimmer. I coach endurance athletes. I coach them around the mindset as well, elevating their confidence. So as an endurance swimmer, I have built my confidence and my mindset through trusting my coach, through committing to my training consistently, showing up for myself, but also understanding that we need rest too. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if you know anything about human design, but I've recently learned a bit about this, and I need more rest than I think. So the more rest I get, the stronger I am out there. So, I mean, another thing too, this is a bit personal, but some of you may be able to relate to this as an athlete. So I'm going to say, like, swimming saved me going through divorce. It saved me in the sense of like having that place to go to get clarity in my life, to clear my mind, to elevate my confidence as a woman, to make those decisions in my life as I was going through divorce that were the right decisions, or at least most of them were. And it led me to this part of my life as I was going through that divorce and got divorced, that I was able to forgive. I was able to forgive my past. So my swimming saved my life to be able to give me that clarity. And that's just a part of it, right? I'm not going to go any deeper than that. And also just going back to consistency. As you know, a lot of you are athletes or coaches that are listening right now, and you know how important that is. The more consistent you are in your training, the more that you listen to yourself, you listen to your coach, the more your confidence is going to elevate, right? So embody that athlete. The other thing that I find is really helpful is visualization leading up into the week. You know, we all know, like, it's not always going to be sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns, but, you know, it's having that visualization of that day, especially when it comes to longer endurance events like Ironman. Man, that helped me. And I know not everything turned out the way it was supposed to. And another thing that I find that elevates my confidence in my breathing. As a swimmer, we have our head in the water, right? And we take the breath, right? So we're not, out in the air the whole time. So breath work, I never thought that that would be my thing, but man, that has helped me so much in my confidence. I am not an open water swimmer from the start. I am a pool swimmer. I have learned to build my confidence out in the open water. And it's fun. I mean, why the heck are we doing our sport if it's not fun? I said that to my husband this morning as he was about to take off on a marathon endurance bike, right? It's got to be fun. So yeah, so we're going to pop into some journal prompts. So I hope you can take a few things away from that little nugget of a story of mine. I'm just going to turn my pages here. So if you have a pen and paper, I'm just going to drop some questions in here. And you can obviously listen to this again and then pause it and do it, or write the questions and come back to it, okay? So what does it mean to you to embody and elevate your confident woman as an athlete? Or if you're not an athlete, a coach, or whatever that may resonate with you. So what does it mean to you to embody and elevate your confident woman as an athlete? So just take a couple of minutes and I'll just kind of pause here. I'm going to throw some music on as we go through this. So what does it mean to embody and elevate your confident woman? Does it mean anything to you? Like, do you actually want to elevate your confident woman? Is that something you aspire to do? Or are you actually just okay where you are? So that's another question, right? Or do you want to take that to the next level? You're already a confident woman, but what would it be like to take it to the next level? It doesn't have to be massive. It can be little baby steps too. So on to the next question. Do you embody and elevate your confident woman? Like, do you already do it? And how do you do it? Can you share this with other women out there to empower them, to lift their confidence up? Like, I truly believe that all women out there have the confidence, right? I think that sometimes we just hide it inside of here, or we forget it because we get so busy, right? And you just kind of have to dig a little bit deeper for that. If you do, how do you embody and elevate her? How do you do that? So I'll repeat that question again. Do you embody and elevate your confident woman? If you do, how do you embody and elevate her? So just give you a second here just to process this. And again, what I can do at the end is I can send these questions to Amy and she can send those out to you. I hope that's okay, Amy. Last question. What is one step you can take today to elevate your confident woman? To elevate your confident woman. You are already a confident woman, but how could you take it that one step further? Where do you get those those butterflies, or you're like in that comfort zone and it feels good, but like push it beyond that comfort zone? Okay. What would it be like to do that for you? Have you felt that feeling before? Do you know what that feels like or looks like? Just give you a second here. All right, so I'm just going to move on here into another story that I have, and it's elevating and embodying as a swim coach or as a coach. So, I mean, when I'm on the pool deck, it's embodying that confidence. I find it's like, for me, it's like I'm standing in that authentic woman that I am on that pool deck. There's one thing that my athletes do appreciate and acknowledge and tell me is that standing there and just being all of me, right? There's so many mixed emotions that are in that pool. And just to be clear, that I coach adults swimming, okay? So the energy that comes onto that pool deck, I can feel that. I can feel that from athletes, and I can usually connect right away if I know what's going on. And taking that moment just to listen to them. And you would be amazed at some of the things that people are not really like, I don't mean like amazed, but like there's a lot of hard shit out there right now, okay? And there's a lot of things that people are going through, and they bring it where they go, like in the pool, and hopefully just leave it there, right? I have a lot of people where they arrive on the pool deck and I'll do a check-in, like a one-word check-in to see where everybody's at, where their emotions are at. And some people will be like exhausted or stressed out, or, you know, and it's good to kind of monitor that and see how they do in their swim. You know, that I'm very observant in that way. So then it's not all about the technique for me. It's around them embodying the woman they are in that pool at that time and what they need to do for themselves, right? So if they need to take that extra 5-minute rest to take care of their soul that day, then they do, right? I've had people where they're exhausted and they show up and, you know, there's maybe like a 15-20-minute rule. And if nothing gets better, sometimes I've told people to like get out of the pool and go in the hot tub, because it's not doing them any good, you know, and it's acknowledging their body and they need to rest, right? So as a coach, it's just keeping that consistent, keeping that positivity with the athletes, keeping it real though, you know, and knowing that when they show up there, that they're showing up there for themselves. You know, it's not, sometimes they arrive late or whatever, but you know, this is their workout. So they need to find that consistency for them and how important it is for them. I'm just trying to see what else I've got here that I want to chat about. Yeah, so I guess I can take in some of the coaching that I do, the one-to-one coaching around confidence coaching, that comes into the pool, right? So, and they get coached in the pool around life skills to then take that off the pool deck, right? Then they start to embody their confident woman. I have seen so many amazing things happen. There was one woman that I coached recently, and she had like a fear of being in the water, right? And mainly the open water. And we worked through different stages and slowly. And finally, after about 2 sessions, we went into the open water. She swam like 2 laps of our local, I like to call it a pond. Apparently it's a lake. And like, it was incredible to watch how her confidence elevated. She was able to let go of past beliefs that she was holding on to and no longer hold them. And then she did an event. Like, freaking amazing, right? So going on to another journal prompt. So grab your pen and a piece of paper again. So you're going to notice a pattern here. There's some stories and some journal prompts. And yeah, I wish I could talk to you guys, but I guess we'll get the questions at the end. So thanks for being here. As an athlete or a coach, or however perspective you want to take it, but I'm talking about athletes today. As an athlete, as a woman athlete, do you find yourself comparing yourself to athletes or pulling on the inspiration from other athletes in your training? Or do you embody that confidence? Like, so again, do you find yourself comparing or pulling off of the inspiration of other athletes that surround you? I'm curious to know. So if you could just take a moment to journal on that. And I do have a story about this one. So I'm not going to drop this in here yet. So as an athlete, do you find yourself comparing yourself to other women athletes that surround you? Or do you pull the inspiration? Which one? Or is it both? So next question is, what if you had consistent access to your confident woman? What if you had consistent access to your confident woman? How would that feel for you? How would that feel to have that access all the time? I understand not every day, again, is sunshine and rainbows, right? We have our highs and our lows, and that's where we do learn, right? We learn from that. But what if you had consistent access to it? Access, right? What would be different for you? Would anything be different for you? Would you have the desire to elevate her to the next level of your confidence as an athlete? So would you have the desire to elevate her to the next level of your confidence as an athlete? Do you even have that desire? Are you ready for that desire? If I say that, does it get you excited, or you're like, heck no, and you're running the other way? And then lastly, how would this change your day-to-day confidence outside of being an athlete. So how would this change outside of being an athlete in your everyday life, right? We learn so much around confidence being an athlete. I know I take that into my everyday life, and it's amazing. The highs and the lows. So again, last question, how would this change your day-to-day confidence outside of being an athlete? So just give you a moment there. All right, so another story. This is a more recent story. I like to collect these stories. And so this story happened the other day in the pool. And so it's related to the inspiration and the impact in the pool during my swim training. So you can take this too as your inspiration impact whenever you're training, right? Just take it from wherever you're at. But this is the story that I want to share with you. So I was in the pool the other day, and I live in Kenmore, and you never know who you're going to run into here. Everywhere from Olympians to world champions to the ladies doing their fitness in the pool to people learning how to swim, right? And so the other day I was in the pool and I found so many people around me were almost starstruck by some of the people that were in the pool. And I know these people, they're acquaintances of mine and friends too. And I thought to myself, maybe a long time ago, I kind of would have been in this mind frame, but not anymore. But I find people, they come up and they say, they're shocked by them. And they're like, wow, I can never be like that. And it's kind of more, it's not that they mean to be negative, but it's like they demeanor themselves in the process. So what if it's like, I was in that pool and I was like, damn, I am so freaking energized right now. And I am not an Olympian or a world champion. I am an everyday endurance swimmer that loves to swim. But that day I had three world champions in the pool of triathletes, one Olympian. And I was like, and then there was the ladies doing their amazing fitness and other people. And I was like, I am going to take this energy from everybody in that pool and the inspiration from the Olympian right in my next lane to the world champion that's swimming with me in the same lane to the ladies over doing their fitness. And I took that and ran with it. And I had one of the best flipping swims ever. And it was just so much fun. I left that pool just feeling impacted, inspired, and, and I'm even getting to know all these amazing humans, from everybody. So I challenge you the next time you go to your workout, whether it's the pool or not, whether you're a coach, you're an athlete, to find that inspiration. And you may already do that, and man, high five to you. That's freaking awesome. So spread that love so other women out there feel that, so it elevates their confidence. It's such an incredible feeling if you can find that. So that's my one story. Didn't happen that long ago. So this is the final journal prompt that I have. So get your pens again. I'm not going to put the music on. I find it's maybe a little bit too low and you may not be able to hear it. So the final journal prompt. So how do you feel now about elevating your confidence as a woman, as an athlete? How do you feel now? Is there anything that, as I went through this, that you can pull out of this that might be slightly different? So I'm going to give you a minute just to write this, or maybe not even something that I said. Something that just came up for you in this process of this conversation that you just forgot about. So I'll repeat that again. How do you feel now about elevating your confident woman as an athlete or a coach? So next question, what would you like to start putting into action? So I'm a big advocate and it's part of my personality. I love to put things into motion, into action. Sometimes I come up with these audacious desires and goals in my life, and I'll know if I don't want to or not, but if I like to put them in the action, whether I fail at it or not, because if I fail at it, I'm going to learn from it, right? So what's one thing that you can start putting into action starting today? Is there a fear you need to move through before taking this action? Do you know what that fear is? Is this fear real? Is it a belief that you have, that you've been holding on to for way too long in your life that you need to let go of? So just give you a moment just to process that and write that down. So here's another one here. And whether you choose to write this or not, or just thinking about it, processing it. How can you call out someone that is putting in the work in their training by embodying and elevating their confident woman? Like, how can you call that person out? You know, like, so much, we get so busy in our life. And I know there's people out there that are amazing at doing this, but like, how can you call that person out? You see what they're doing, you see what they're doing in their training, you see that they're elevating their confidence. And how can you tell them that? Just say it. We so often see what others are doing, and I challenge you to say it out loud. So it's even outside of sport, and we've heard this before. It's like you go to the grocery store or wherever. It's like, call it out. If you see a woman walking in there and you like what they're wearing, or they just look freaking amazing, or there's just something about them, name it, say it. You're probably going to make their freaking day, right? So it's the same with athletes. You know, call it out, say it. I mean, it's just empowering other women around us and elevating their confidence and getting rid of that comparison. Turn that comparison into inspiration. So the last kind of question here is, what is one thing you can celebrate today? And being the confident athlete you are. So what is one thing you can celebrate today as the confident athlete you are? And celebrating things is so important, because we bust our butts off training for our events or coaching athletes or just anything. It doesn't even have to do with sport. I challenge you to take that and celebrate yourself in some way every day. I do this with my husband, actually, and we try to do it almost every night, where we celebrate at least one or two things just by verbalizing it and talking about it, right? We work so hard at things, so let's start celebrating them. And if it's celebrating someone else, call them out on it. And this right here is where that ripple effect turns into a tidal wave. Is taking that and celebrating other people, celebrating other women, calling them out, telling them how amazing they are, you know, not holding back. So I'm almost kind of coming to an end of this session today. One takeaway, and I'm hoping that there's been a few gold nuggets throughout here, or something that's kind of given you that little extra push in your life to elevate that confident woman. By embodying and elevating your confident woman, you will elevate the confidence in other women. So by embodying and elevating your own confident woman, other women are going to see that. Then they're going to want to do the same thing for themselves in their own way, right? So how can we keep doing that? How can we keep impacting other women like that and inspiring them to use their voice, you know? Or it may not even be their voice. It could be through art. It could be through something that's quieter, right? We're not, you know, not all of us want to voice and say things out loud. So how do we do that? How do we keep this a ripple effect, a tidal wave, creating this for other women to elevate their confidence, to embody their confidence, and drop that comparison to inspire all of us around us? So thank you, everybody, for being here, for listening to me. This is my first speaking engagement, and I'm honored to be here. So thank you, Amy, so much for saying yes to having me on here. How to reach me? You can reach me on Instagram at Sarah Freeman Coaching, or you can reach me on my website at sarahfreemancoaching.com. I'm sure there'll be lots of other details that I'll drop in here. If you want to listen to my podcast, I'm on iTunes and Spotify. It's called Raw Podcast. We're just on a pause right now. So I do a community podcast with 2 other rad women. And then I do one on my own where I'm interviewing guests. I'm actually looking for some guests for the fall. I haven't started that process yet. And specifically endurance athletes or stepmoms. And I think that's about it. And if you're ever looking for a coach and you want to work with me even more, if this feels like your vibe, I have 3 offers out there right now for one-to-one coaching. One is the Confident Woman, one is Embodying Your Endurance Athlete, and the last one is called Elevate. So thank you, everybody. Have a super awesome day. And thank you so much for listening. And I hope you can take something out there into the world with you. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much. I feverishly wrote down all the journal prompts, but I will definitely get you to send them to me and I can post them with the video and then people can go through it. It's interesting because I think this is something most women struggle with, but confidence is something I struggle with, like on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis. So I think it is fantastic. And I know I'm hypercritical of myself. I think partially being an athlete and just partially being an incredibly driven person that I'm constantly criticizing myself. So I wanted to talk about because I liked that you talked about finding that confidence as an athlete. And I thought it was really interesting because as I thought about it, I'm like, I've actually lost a lot of my confidence as an athlete in retiring. I feel more confident in other realms, but actually I started going back to the gym this year and I was like, man, I do not feel confident here. And I'm like, I was a professional athlete and I feel like I lack confidence walking into just a regular gym. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was so interesting. And I wondered I guess maybe if you even have some tips in terms of are there mantras or different things that you would recommend to people? What can we be reminding ourselves of in those moments?
I think I totally hear where you're coming from. And I think the big part of it that I've learned in the last, and my confidence wavers up and down. I think that's a really normal thing, right? And we learn from it and we grow from it. But in swimming, mine is just keep on swimming, Finding Nemo, that's fine. And, most recently when I just did a 5K swim the other weekend, and I had a bit of a moment for the first 300 meters. And I was I thought I was going to have to stop, goggle malfunctions. And I'm like, Sarah, put your head down and remember all of the training you've done, right? It's that consistency. So once you start to get back into that, it's believing in yourself, right? And it depends what your goal is at the end, right? What you're striving for or what it is. It could be big or small. I think another thing is I mentioned in here is pulling that energy off of other people around you. I think we compare ourselves to other people, and I used to struggle with that hugely when I was going through separation and divorce. And I have worked so hard to push through that because there's so many incredible women out there that don't want that. They want to inspire you. They want to see you succeed, I guess is what it is. There's so many women and we need to start saying that, right? I don't know if that helps.
No, it does. And that really, I loved the point you made about am I comparing or am I using for inspiration? Because it's such an important differentiation. It's so easy to get into that comparison and get into that negative spiral, or with that little bit of a shift, we can actually be inspired. So I really liked that story of going, you know what, I could get into this negative, or I can be excited to be in this space with these people and use that energy. And I thought that was fantastic.
I think one thing that I say to a lot of my athletes too is just do your best. Just do your best that you have in you today. Your best could just be, just showing up at the pool, or your best is just getting out of bed, right? We've been through so much in the last couple of years, and a lot of us have made shifts in our life, whether you're an athlete or not an athlete. It's I went from being a triathlete to triathlon coach to pivoting everything to now embracing my swimmer, because that's what I am, to letting that go, right? Yeah.
And I think that's the key, is being able to let go and appreciate where we are right now. Yes. Right. And I was so glad that you brought up that sense of failure and just letting failure be okay. Because I know, like, for me, that is a huge hang up, and that'll get me into that downward spiral of, something's gone wrong. And so then I make up this story about my worth. Right. So learning to go the other way of, this is an opportunity versus, I don't know. I don't know what the
like
right now.
I feel like, as like, I've been an entrepreneur since like 2016, and I feel like, I don't know, there's something around that you learn to let go of a lot more, because so much is out of your control too, right? And you learn, I've failed so much. Like, I've dropped programs out there in my business, and then no one shows up, and I'm like, well, I did it. Or, something in a race or an event, it's like, it's easier said than done. Like, I understand that, but I guess I'm learning that muscle, right? Mm-hmm. It's a muscle, just like in like a sport. It's your brain, your heart.
Yeah. And I think that is that key, is that consistency of like coming back to ourselves, coming back and reminding ourselves, like, because it's so easy to get caught in that negative, but we have that power to choose the positive in that situation, or choose celebration. And I love that idea of like, can we celebrate other women? Right. So I always think like women have such this like negative connotation around, we're trying to crawl our way up, and we're pulling each other down, when we really should just be elevating each other. Right.
Oh, absolutely. It's like I, some of the things that I remember is like, my other people out there that are empowering you or encouraging you or they see you, right? And they call it out. Like, how much does that mean? Like, I can remember people, right? It's like, if we could do more of that, our confidence would be elevated too. But I know internally we have to figure that out ourselves as well. But yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I just texted somebody this morning as I was feeling like nervous, and I was like, I'm working on being able to receive this positive message, because that's my work, right? Is like to internally believe it so that I can actually receive it. So
yeah, it's like, I have one of these, like, in my business, like, I don't know if somebody else might do this too, but like, I have like 3 layers of confidence that I kind of coach off of a little bit. And it's like brave, badass, and big hearted. And it's like, in those layers, like, I'm not going to go into it today, but it's like diving into them, because we all have that, we all, and I'm, when I say badass, I don't mean that you need to go out there and jump off a mountain. Like, if you do, awesome. If you climb Everest, great. But I'm just saying, it's like little things, and remembering that, right? Remembering, like, maybe it's like leaving your job, or maybe it's just, I don't know, doing your first painting or something. Like, I consider some of that badass stuff. Like, it's like, we have to remember. Yeah.
Okay. So before we wrap up, any suggestions on reading material, other podcasts? Obviously your podcast we need to go check out, but any other resources that you suggest?
No other resource. I'm just thinking at this time. I've been learning a lot from a group of women down in Squamish, and I can't say anything but good things about them. And I have definitely elevated my own personal confidence through them, and it's For the Wild Femme. So check out their podcast, because they're just super rad women, not on an athletic standpoint, but as like an entrepreneur. They have helped me over the last 6+ months. Yeah. So I'm sure there's so many people out there.
Yeah.
So
no, that's great. And I will definitely check that out. Thank you so much. We'll definitely link all your social and all of that so people can find you.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope your husband's race goes well.
Yeah, go back and cheer him on. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye. Thanks, everyone.